I think next time we should just go to Connie's and sit 6 feet apart.
Sounds like a good idea.
She got a big backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of shade.
Yes, I had to let the dog in the house. Sorry.
No problem. So we'll get started with our agenda then, and go to the approval of minutes. If anybody has anything to add or change to it or comment. So does anybody want to make a motion to adopt them? Bob and Connie and everyone in agreement?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to business arising, which is Jennifer.
Okay. Okay, so for our New Lowell and Creedmoor branch, we have begun curbside pickup. We have safety protocols in place, and we do have patrons booking time up fairly quickly, a little more in Creedmoor. If they're early, we then, if we know there's somebody in the community who can probably slip in before the next slot, we've been slipping them in. So we're doing pretty well in terms of that. I haven't made it formal yet, but I'll make it formal here at our meeting, is that next Tuesday we will be opening curbside up in Stainer.
Oh,
So
right.
later there will be a press release put out updating the public on that, and we will update our social media as well. So that's coming out. So the hours I'm not too sure about yet. That's a work in progress. But yeah, I think we will have enough in place in the new facility to allow that. So that's exciting. And the people have been very receptive to getting any service at all. I am not willing to go forward with opening the Nottawa drop box because we cannot follow the safety protocols I have for the other drop boxes, which are that staff wash their hands, put on their mask and their gloves, and when they've finished quarantining the material, remove their gloves and wash their hands. So there's no place to wash their hands. Also, they would have to store their potentially contaminated gloves and mask and the quarantine materials in their vehicle to take it to a branch. So that's just, until we get to a point where we don't have to do this kind of length of quarantine, I can't see us opening that. And I know His Worship will have some concerns with that, but it's a health and safety matter. I don't see how we can get around. All our staff are back from their declared emergency leave and happy to be back. They don't all have the hours they did before because we're still trying very hard to work in. You're not the only one, Connie, that has dogs going in and out. Hold on a sec. Okay, so we're still trying to work in teams in each branch, so that if one team became contaminated, the other team would be able to step up and we wouldn't have to close service. And this means I have less staff to do all the hours. That's okay. We will get around that eventually. But right now our hours, as you'll have seen from press releases, are reduced from what they normally are. But gradually we'll get back to normal. So staff at this point are just happy to be back at work. Okay, what tell you about the state branch. The movers have moved everything. County IT are coming back in this week to, we've got Wi-Fi in the building. We can use our computers and that's great, but they have to set up some additional things for the public computers to prepare for when we can open. Okay, so there's lots. Okay, so you probably know, and I may have mentioned this in the CEO's report, but I might as well bring it up now, is that the province has now said we can let people in the building to use the public access computers. Well, no, we can't, because we're not prepared for that from a health and safety perspective. We still do not have the glass partitions in place. The province has said the public cannot touch anything on the shelves. They can't touch the shelves, they can't touch the collection. They haven't said they can't use the washrooms. So I'm assuming once they're allowed back in, they'll be able to use the washroom. So we need to set up some protocols for that too. We're just not ready. And I think the bulk of libraries, not just in our size, but much larger, are not ready to have people back in. I know there's some in Simcoe County that are doing that, but I don't think that's an advisable option at this time. You want your staff safe and you want the community safe. I was going to ask Kim to report on her use of grant advance to look for funding for the robotic program material that we wanted, but she's not with us today because she wasn't feeling very well, so we'll hold that off for another date. And the Indigenous program, Connie, I know is really important, but I think we need to get up and get running a little more than we are now. And since the Small Halls Festival has been canceled, I think probably the spring would be a wonderful time to have that. So that gives us lots of time to do prep work, and maybe you'll be feeling a little more up to par, and I won't have Michelle running around like a flea in a mitt, as my mother would say. So she'll be more available. And that's about it for Business Arising. Pam?
Yeah, no, I just was thinking, I had a thought about the Indigenous program. I think June is Indigenous People's
June
Month.
21st.
Yeah, and so that might be something to aim towards, is if it's, I don't know if that conflicts with any other programming, but that might be something to think about.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I don't know when June 21st falls in 2021, but I mean, it's always better if it falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, right?
I do have a little thing to say.
Okay.
The Inuit don't believe that they're sorry. Did you hear what I said?
Not really.
Sorry. No. Okay. The Inuit do not believe that they're Indigenous. They don't. So we'll have to leave that word out, but I think we can say Inuit, we can say a lot of other things. I'll find out from Anna what they do believe they are, and we'll get the proper wording for that.
So maybe we maybe should avoid Indigenous Peoples Day then too. That might be.
I don't think we need to avoid the day. We just don't necessarily call what the event as Indigenous, right?
Yeah. Well, we could say it's an Inuit event celebrating Indigenous Week or something, but yeah, I'll find out from Anna, and we'll put the proper to it. But I think the spring is a good time. I think people will be looking to do something different for at that time too. So I'm good with that.
Okay.
We'll work towards next spring. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. Good.
Okay. And then, so the CEO's report. Oh, Bob has a question.
Before we leave the reopening information, we have a lot of books still to be returned, I presume. Are we extending the return privileges because they were going to end at the end of June?
Okay, so everything has been renewed to June 30th. And certainly a lot of the material has come back through Creemore and New Lowell. And I think, Madam Chair, you were going to address that at some point in the meeting. Did you want to speak to that now?
Sure. So I was proposing that we waive fines till the end of the summer, but I think, Bob, you actually brought it up the last meeting that the end of the year would probably be a good time. And I think that would be, I would like to make a motion, if everybody thought that was a good idea, to waive fines till the end of the year.
I would second that motion.
Okay.
I would third it.
Should we make a formal?
Well, we can make a formal motion, but I would really like you to consider adding to that because we not only take fines, but we also, for DVDs, have insurance waiver fees. And I think, you know, what reasons that we're doing this, I mean, Bob brought it up at the last meeting, was to help people out who, yes, maybe coming back from declared emergency leave, but probably are still going to have some ongoing financial issues because of the declared emergency leave or the layoff, whichever they had. And so we're helping them out. But we also, I think, want to reduce the amount of contact staff have with cash.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So we make a motion, maybe it could be that any kind of service that requires handling of money, like the printing and the fax service.
well, we won't provide those. Those are easy.
No.
Yes.
But the other two relate to borrowing, and that's our core
Okay,
service.
so waiving the insurance fees then as well to
Yeah.
until the end of the year. And then if anybody has an insurance waiver paid up to a certain point, they could just have that extended.
Yeah, I
think.
think from close to the end of the year. So it works out to 10 months, which is fine. And we just had our emergency control group meeting, and I did raise this, that if we did do this today, there would be a loss in revenue, and nobody batted an eyelid. So.
Okay. Okay, so does somebody need to make a formal motion, Jennifer? Or
Well, I've got most of this half-ass written down, so as long as I get a mover and seconder on the revised motion, and then you all vote, then we should be good to go.
Okay, so who would like to?
I'll make a motion then.
Okay.
And second it.
Okay, so either Mary or John.
Okay.
Okay, and then all in favor. Okay, perfect.
Great. So I've talked a bit about the provincial reopening, and we're just not ready for it. We will be at some point. We got the quote, the township got the quote for installing all the glass partitions that we'll need. And we will, in the new Stainer branch, we'll have 2 freestanding glass partitions that we're going to use in the workroom lunch area to kind of separate them off from each other. So there's a little less airflow between the two and sneezing and coughing. And the glass partitions around the desks and at the computer stations are going to come to about $12,000 plus HST. So this was discussed at the emergency control meeting, and we discussed whether it needed to go to the board or council, and the CAO with the mayor there said, no, this is a health and safety requirement. It's simply part of our facilities costs for 2020. We're hoping that there will be grants, either from the federal or provincial government, that will allow us to recoup some of the costs that we've spent on these protocols and for PPE. I would certainly hope so, but we're not going to be the only department with an overage in this budget line for this. And I think council will be very understanding, since there's 2 of you on here today, of why this is happening. We have to protect the public. We have to protect our staff. And this is not some far out way of doing it. This is the accepted way that's being done in other libraries across North America and even in Europe. So, and you've probably seen the same thing in every store you've gone into since this whole thing started. So that's what we're looking. There are some additional expenditures with that. Once they are in place, and we have a few more health and safety protocols coming out in the next week or 2 from the township human resource manager, who is also the person who works with the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and we'll train staff on that, and then we'll be ready to have people into the building. I'm still not sure about how we go about cleaning the washrooms. I can tell you that I have had our cleaner into the new branch, and we've gone over it, and he will get back to me very shortly with a quote. So he cleans all the facilities except the arenas. The arenas are cleaned by Parks and Rec staff. It's anticipated that probably in 2021, the arenas will also go with this company, since it's a global Clearview wide contract, to have their new offices cleaned by them. But we certainly have to get moving on that, because right now there's been no cleaning of the facility, other than we're cleaning the shells because they're covered in construction dust. But you know, the washrooms have to be maintained, that sort of thing. So that's coming forth. The name change has happened in New Lowell. I expect the sign to be put up soon. When it's put up, the old sign will be brought down. The sign for the Premore facility, which the existing sign is a mess and needs to be removed, and Public Works will remove that when they receive the sign for the Creemore facility. They'll put that up and take the other one down. That
Sorry,
hasn't happened
Jennifer.
yet.
Sorry, I think John
Yes.
had a question.
Yes, John.
Just regarding the separation, the glass partitions. One of the things I've noticed in the last couple of weeks in the banks that I've visited, the ones they're using I consider to be deficient, far too small. I just wanted to make sure that we're using a decent size partitions to protect everybody. That's all.
Yeah, and the standard is pretty much the same as it is at the township. So it is good quality safety glass. It goes up, I think, 24 inches. We're not only having it around the circulation desk, but also at the public computers. And we're moving some of the public computers out in other parts of the library to ensure the spacing we require. It's good quality, yeah, and it's going to be sufficient. Some of the stuff I've seen go up looks very temporary. The giant tigers my sister was using saran wrap. So yeah, we're just opening a new branch. You know, the architect is all bent out of joint that we're putting up glass. So I've assured him it's going to look nice. I mean, if you have to put up glass, this is the nicest you can make it look. Plus, it's probably, I don't think we've gone overboard. We've certainly done everything necessary for health and safety. It's not shoddy work and it's not shoddy material.
Great. Oh, Bob.
Jennifer, how is it being attached to our brand new furniture? I hope it's not leaving permanent marks on it, you know?
Well, it's going to be permanent. The decision that was made at emergency control group meeting was that this is not a temporary
measure.
That's the word. It's not a temporary measure. It's a permanent measure going forward, and therefore it will be permanently affixed to the circulation desk. But they're using not just glass, but good quality wood to attach everything together. It will look good. It's not going to look spectacular because it's glass on your circulation desk, but it's going to be, as attractive as it can be, and it's going to be permanent.
Okay, so the digital e-magazines, I think that's where you are.
Yeah. Hold on, it's just, okay, so one of the things we've had is, until today is a banner day because the Stainer Library phone number is transferred off of my cell phone and back to the Stainer.
Oh.
So we got some new phones for that. Okay, you want out too, okay. Hold on. The dogs are running the knee. So I've been fielding calls 7 days a week, and that's okay. And a lot of people who've never used our library before want to use our e-resources and our e-materials. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that people wanted was magazines. So I talked to the CEO of Severn Township, which is a very small library in Coldwater, but it's a nice little library for its community. And she has been using RB Digital for a couple of years now. So their pricing is based on population. And they prorated the price for this year, and we had room in our collections budget for it. So I have purchased it. It is a 2-year minimum deal. So we will pay the full price next year. But the magazines, there's 50, some of them are in French, so they're not going to be as popular as others. But most of them were very popular magazines. And they go all the way from kids to teens to adults to, men's, women's. If you go in and look at them, and they're easy, it's easy to sign up, it's easy to get them. There's simultaneous use so that if 50 people wanted to read the same issue of Oprah's magazine at the same time they could. It was a reasonable cost. It was about just under $1,500 this year, and it'll be just under $2,000 next year. So, you know, when we're in a situation, I don't know when we're going to, the people who are calling are really happy with the curbside service concept, but they want to come into the library. And we know from statistics that people do not walk out the door with most of the magazines. Most of them are read in-house. So they're not getting access to magazines. And in fact, when we do curbside service, one of the things we are not going to provide, although I've said we'll provide everything, is magazines, because it's just, how do you clean a magazine? You know? But this way they can get, well, we don't subscribe to 50 different titles, you know, in our physical. We probably have more than 50 titles in hand, but some of them have, you know, we have them in each branch. So it's really one title and 3 copies of it. So I think this is going to be beneficial to people. It's also because our Flipster, which comes from the County Library Cooperative, does not have many titles. Most of them are in Spanish, which is great for our Spanish community, and we try to promote it there. But it does nothing for the rest of, it's only got like 10 or 15 titles. This really expands what we can offer, and I'm hoping we can use it to get people interested in e-resources who weren't before, because I know a number of people my age group and older have gone out and bought Kobos and such things who never before would have thought of using these, but they want to read. So, you know, I think it'll pay. Pardon me?
I think Connie had a question.
Yeah.
It's not so much a question. I wrote a note here that just said, way to go. I mean, having all of those magazines is fabulous, because I know I picked up a few magazines and they're getting pretty scarce in the drugstores where I usually get them. And I picked a few up for the kids because they needed reading material, and oh my gosh, they just about ate them up. So I think it's wonderful that you've done this. To add more magazines for everybody is just, it's a great bonus for the library, Jennifer, and thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, sounds good.
I concur.
Yay.
There's a lot of kids magazines. That was one of the things I found very attractive, because kids magazines tend to be expensive, so we don't have many. And also we tend to have them at the Stainer branch because of course that's our largest patron base. But this allows kids at every branch to have access to this.
Yeah.
So, Jennifer,
More
is this
equity.
Has it been added to the website and everything?
It's been added to the website. A press release go out. It's been on all our social media. And every time somebody phones and says, I would like a membership, I have said, these are the things you can get online.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the press releases. Do we need to?
Well, you just need to know that they're there. I've been working closely with the township on this because, you know, we've been getting everything into social media, but they send it out to the traditional media. And so we're really covering all the bases, because the other thing I have found through all this is I've had a lot of people phone about getting a membership, or primarily getting a membership or finding out what's going on with the library, who have no internet access. Mm-hmm. And so they don't know what we're doing. Right. In fact, I have one woman who says she not only doesn't have internet access, but she doesn't listen to the news. And I thought, well, lady, I don't know how we're going to help you, but okay.
Did you hear about COVID?
All she knew is we were closed. I don't even know how she would knew we were closed when she wasn't following the.
Came to the door.
So, you know, there are a lot of people out there who rely on traditional media to get the information. So, and not that we don't normally post a newspaper, but this allows us to do it more broadly than that. And it's giving me, you know, I know to some extent Drew is looking at a few things extra to do, and this is helping, and it's also forging a good partnership with staff at the township.
Well, and it's reminding everybody that the library is there and it's working away to get things going for the public.
They
Yeah.
keep us in their eye. That's
Yes.
for sure.
Okay, so financial reports, are we ready for that?
Yes, and I think you've got May's there.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know. The April should have been part of the minutes.
Yeah.
Right, because that was brought up at the minutes, and I know, Bob, a few meetings ago, long before COVID, you had talked about, you know, if there's an additional item that's presented at during the meeting, then it should form part of the record. So we're attempting to do that now.
Yeah, these are May accounts there.
Yeah, so you've got the May accounts. Nothing much has changed. I mean, we're not taking revenue in. We're not in a good place that way. But you know what? Neither of the other departments, like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You can't do too much about that.
And then, sorry.
So really, the other financial thing we need to talk about is we need a budget committee. And of course, the chair should sit on this, but usually there's 3 or 4 of us, myself and 1 or 2 board members. So I don't know who else would like to participate in that.
I'll sit in on that,
Okay.
figuratively or actually.
Okay. Does anyone else want to?
Well, I did it last year, but I thought maybe John might like to join you this year. Are you busy, John, or do you want me to go?
Can't hear you, John.
Yeah, I just unmuted.
He's not answering. No.
Okay.
I'll give it a go.
So myself and 3 board members, that's great. The other thing, normally we meet in July, and I would really recommend that we wait until August, because I think the treasurer at the township would really like to see some more of the numbers come in for what we're doing for health and safety protocols for COVID, and what we project we might need in 2021 before even the township starts seriously, you know, the staff starts seriously sitting down and talking about what we need for 2021. I think we need to, we'll be in a better place late November, well, we'll be in a better place late November, but I meant late August than we are in early July. Does anyone have a problem with that, or does that make sense to you?
Sounds fine.
That makes sense.
I think because it's quite a small group, whether the other members would be interested in sitting around a table as opposed to being online, we could probably keep our 6 foot, 7 foot, whatever distance, you know, with a small group like that. So I think it makes it a little bit easier to, you know, discuss.
Understand the process.
Yeah.
So if we're putting it off until late August, I assume that the protocols from the province are going to change too. So it should be easier to facilitate that as well. But I think that's a great idea, because when you're looking at the budget documents, and it just seems much easier. And we've got some time to think about how we can do that and where we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got to tell you, that wonderful group study room is small when you're talking about keeping 6 foot from somebody else, and there's a number of us. And also we need some place to store or quarantine our material. So right now that's where Stainer's stuff will be going. But that doesn't mean the community hall can't be used, and it's pretty big, and we can stay very far away from each other there.
Yeah, there you go.
So there are places to go, and we can do that. I think that's a great idea, Bob.
Anything else for financial?
No.
Okay, so then the next and last, I think, is new business.
Okay, so the only thing I heard from the Health and Safety Committee, and they pretty much said that if any of you have a real need to come into one of the buildings, could you please get in touch with me first so that we can advise you of what the protocols are for health and safety, and whether you need a mask or whatever, and to ensure that the numbers, which now are higher, but reflect what we're allowed to have in the building. Because as soon as somebody else comes in, if we were at our 10 already, we would have to remove somebody from the facility. So it's not a hard process. It's just one little extra step.
Oh,
Are we going to need a bodyguard or a bouncer?
I don't think so. I think that's me. It's kind of my job
You
description.
said remove somebody from the building. Oh, that's what I picture.
Well, I can easily redeploy a staff.
politely.
And one of the things that our county, the regional Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit medical officer is stating is that if you continue to work from home, please do so. And he's not just saying that to municipalities.
No.
Well, of course, most of us are going into the office anyways, but I think you will continue to see my dining room on occasion. And sometimes it's just, if there's too many people in the building, then it makes more sense for me or for Michelle to work from her home. And I know we've had 3 programmers very busy doing online programming, especially Janice and Elaine. And I know that Janice's husband has been helping her with her videos in terms of being her cameraman. So for some things, it just makes more sense to do them from home. And if that's, as long as the medical officer is telling us to do that, then to some extent we will continue to do so. So it's not hard to redeploy staff so that you can come in. I just need to know in advance. And we're not going to mask and gown you, but probably have some procedures in place.
So Jennifer, if I wanted to come over and just take a quick look at the branch, could I phone ahead and see if that's possible? Or I don't need anybody.
If I prefer if I was in the building, so I'll make sure I'm there.
Yeah.
We'll come up with a mutual time and date.
Okay.
And then I'll just make sure, we're up to 10 people can be in a building. And particularly in the new Stainer building, it's less of a problem because it's such a big facility. I mean, 10 people in New Lowell or Creemore, it starts to probably hit the max of what we should have in there anyways. But certainly in Stainer, it shouldn't be a problem. But I need to know because, you're going to need to come in and use some hand sanitizer. And I don't think at this point you're going to have to wear a mask, but we'll have to remind you about, safe distancing because we had an issue today. Like, how long has this been going on? And I went up and started to hug Janice because of something she had did that was wonderful. I can't even remember what it is. And I thought, oh shit, I cannot do that. So, you need to be reminded of that just because we're all human and forget. So if one of you wanted to come in and have a look around, that would be fine.
Okay.
Just have to set it up.
Perfect.
And that was the only thing I really had as other new business. Does anyone have anything else?
Looks like we're moving on to, Connie.
Yes, I talked to Marilyn today about her bags. She had 120 bags that I had to go through.
Wow.
And as far as I was concerned, I was going to get 20 because I had $100 and now I got the $100. It was kind of funny. Our insurance company, funnily enough, gave us $100 and they said, pay it forward. So I thought, okay, I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to buy 20 bags and then give them to the library when we're ready. So we have a splash for our opening, if we ever have an opening again. And we'll have a lot of bags. So I went and picked out 20 and then she gave me the receipt and she donated 40.
Oh.
She donated 40?
Like donated them. And I argued with her for a good 10 minutes about it because I know she needs the money. But she said, no, she went through her books and realized that if you add up all the money that the bags and the money that you made that she donated, she didn't feel it was enough. So she donated the 40 bags. And
oh my gosh.
I have 60 bags here now when we're ready to put them out. And so she wants 30 to go to Creemore because she knows that Creemore's done so well with them. So I'll just tell you that now. And I just think, I can't believe she did that, but.
Oh, that's really nice.
She's amazing, really, for her age. She's even made new cards and she's hilarious.
Aww.
I had a good time. It wasn't a great day to be there to do that, but I did it anyway. And it was nice to see her because I hadn't seen her for ages. So anyway, she loves our library. She's probably going to be the first person through the doors, honestly.
That's amazing.
I know.
Bob?
We should make sure that she is recognized in our
Yes.
fundraising program.
Yes. Yes. I'm pretty sure we have to make a mention of her. I mean, I told her she was one of our biggest supporters. And she said, well, I added it all up. It's not terribly a lot financially. And I said, Marilyn, it's your enthusiasm I feel is the biggest support for me. Like, we need that enthusiasm, and you've got it. And I'm so glad to get it every time I visit you. So
Have we ever done any publicity with her? Because, you know, here we have the person who's making them, you know, and we could use that to
Yes.
build a little story that we could put in the paper that would provide her with some recognition and also provide us with some advertising for the bags.
that's a good idea, Bob.
So the answer to that would be that every time I talk to her, she says, I don't want to use my name.
Oh.
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think at some point, like when we're closer to having a big opening and splash and all that, that we should maybe, Connie, I might have you have another talk with her about,
Yeah.
look,
No.
you need to let us bring you forward and give you some recognition for what you've done. Because it's not the amount, Connie, it's that she's happy to do it and that it's ongoing. We've had a lot of people give significant amounts, but it's a one-go thing.
Right.
And not that that isn't important. I mean, give us big bucks, we love it. But this has been a labor of love for her from the very beginning, and she's still happy to continue doing it. So I think at some point the conversation needs to be had that you can't remain anonymous. We think too much of you.
I agree. I think that, yeah, she does need the recognition. I know she doesn't want the accolades and everything else, but yeah, I think when we get closer to, I'd like to have her at least somehow featured as one of our biggest supporters. So anyway, I agree. She's been great. So thank you.
Awesome.
Might be worth using the recognition creates more awareness and more donations.
Hopefully.
Well,
Yeah.
she might be more agreeable to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's true. Well, and it's not like I haven't asked people to write us letters of, you know, encouragement, and you know, I'm glad the library is going in because I'm going to use it for this, that, and the other. Getting people to put pen to paper is really hard, and it's like, okay, so if you can't write it down, put an email together and I'll print it off. But I haven't even got that, so I'm going to start throwing darts or something. I don't know. Maybe if I stood on my head and spit nickels, I might get something. I have no idea how to do this. So we'll try. I won't give up.
What if we had some way online that they could create a poster for the library? You know what I mean? Like we have an outline of something, and you get to create an online poster promoting our libraries. You might get people that really opted into that because it's, you know, they could, you know, pull in pictures and it would be shorter. Wouldn't be a lot of words, but, well, some of them might be a lot of words, but it just might be something that somebody sees one person's and then the next and creates another person's and then creates 5 persons. We might have lots of participation, and especially now when people can't come in.
Yes, that's true.
And aren't as inclined probably to write a letter and then lick the envelope and send it. So, you know.
Get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, I will talk to our website and social media staff person.
yeah.
Make sure that we can do this. And if we can, let's give it a go.
Or even
Yeah.
a postcard.
Yeah.
You know, something cool.
Well, if we get some really nice designs after this is all over and we can post things, we could print them off and actually put them up. So
Oh, yeah, I can
Yeah.
that's a good idea. At least it'll give people something to do, and maybe they'll put a connection to the library, and ooh, I need to be there or whatever. So yeah,
Worth a try.
it's worth a try.
Yeah.
Good work. Sorry. I knew I missed you.
I miss all of you.
Okay, so our next meeting is in September.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
Except for the budget.
right,
August.
the budget committee. Yeah.
And I hope by September you're getting not only my other reports, but also a strategic plan review report. Really, we've just kind of dropped that. And I know it's important, but there's only so many hours in a day. And there's been some other things that were even more important than our strategic plan. But hopefully by September, we have a better understanding of where we're going and how we're getting there. And we can move a little bit into trying to address some of our strategic goals in light of the reality that we currently live in.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And our strategic plan right now, I mean, let's face it, it's really hard to follow a strategic plan when everything changes daily. So I think I wouldn't worry about it until we're a little more, if there is such a word, called back to normal.
Absolutely. Welcome, Mayor Measures.
Hi, Doug.
We're just about to sign off.
I was delayed, and I actually spent a good 15 minutes looking for the link. So frustrating. Sorry.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yes.
Bob?
Jennifer, I just wanted to check with you. You're going to be preparing a workbook or a worksheet with regard to the proposed agenda, proposed budget, are you?
Well, if you were involved in last year's, if you look at what we had last year and then what the approved budget for 2020 was, that's where we start. And then the township treasurer will be giving us assumptions, such as what the anticipated increase will be for, services such as, our utilities. They usually have some idea of that in advance, and things of that order. When we get that placed out, then we'll start looking at what are we doing in 2021. Is it the same as we're doing now? What will it cost in 2021? Are we doing other things in line with our strategic plan? If so, what are they going to cost? Where is our revenue coming from? Because one of the things we've done at this meeting is reduce one of our very small revenue streams. So if you start by reviewing this year's budget, that's a good starting place, because the budget lines and that sort of thing aren't going to change.
Okay.
Are they the budget that we have? I guess I could find it on the township site. Do we have any access to it?
You should have received that from me as part of a board meeting agenda whenever we approve the budget for this year. And it should be somewhere on the township website. If you can't find it, Bob, let me know and I'll get the treasurer to send me a copy.
It must be in the treasurer's package. I'll check that first.
But it may not be a line by line, and you probably, that's what we'll be looking at as a committee. So if you want, if you can't find that in your files, let me know and I'll get you a copy.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So even though the mayor just came on board, I think we're ready to adjourn unless anybody has anything else. Jennifer, anything else that we need to do?
That's it.
No? Okay.
All right.
Do we need to make a motion to adjourn or anything?
Yes.
All right. Oh, Connie's got, and John. There we go. And all
You
in
sure I couldn't make that motion? I mean, I just joined you. I'm just teasing.
Have a good summer, everybody.
Yeah, you
Have
too.
a good summer. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy it safely.